with this massive exodus into home education that I think has just begun, we're seeing an increase in regulation, right? And so at some point, this is my prediction, they're going to start requiring degrees saying that, or some kind of, even if it's a 2 year or 4 year, some kind of qualification where you can't homeschool without it.
Welcome to the Unschooling Lifestyle. Today, we are thrilled to dive into a truly inspiring conversation with Zara Lightway from Lightway Learning. In this episode, we follow Zara's deeply intuitive journey through the often rigid world of traditional education. She shares her personal experiences exploring and learning about alternative education models and how those transformative moments have now become the foundation for her mission, empowering parents everywhere to trust their inner guidance, break free from conventional paths, and confidently embark on their own homeschooling or unschooling adventures. Whether you're just curious about stepping away from mainstream schooling or you're already on this path and seeking more inspiration, Zara's story is full of heart, wisdom, and practical encouragement. So settle in, grab your favorite drink, and let's dive in. The course is geared towards families leaving the system, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The course is a home educator certification course. There is no other anywhere I've looked. With the idea of empowering parents to be able to step outside the system, but then also have this certification so they can say to family members and co-parents and friends that are all needing reassurance that they know what they're doing. And they can say, well, I'm a certified lightweight home educator. Beyond that, what we're seeing, and I just saw a reel this morning about New Jersey, is with this massive exodus into home education that I think has just begun, we're seeing an increase in regulation, right? And so at some point, this is my prediction, they're going to start requiring degrees saying that, or some kind of, even if it's a 2 year or 4 year, some kind of qualification where you can't homeschool without it. And down the line, we aim to become Lightway University, but we're a bit ahead of the game here. But by the time we get there, we're hoping it will be timely and we'll make it in time to where home educators can still do learning the way that they want to, because we'll be able to credit them, give them credit for that qualification, whatever it turns out to be, based on their home educating journey that they've already done, the home educating that they do, and having taken or taking our courses, because there's 3 levels of the course as well. And then also a training to become a lightweight coach. So that can create like a pathway for revenue for a home educating parent while still doing something they already love, which is home educating, right? So it all kind of fits together.
That's so interesting that you mentioned that because you're absolutely right about the increased regulation.
Mhm.
So the more people
Mhm.
are leaving the system, the more roadblocks that you're going to put in on people. And that is one of the questions that people ask. Can I home educate my children if I don't have a degree?
And right now you can in most states. I think there might be two. I found a website where it said there were a couple of states that require it, but when I looked further, it actually wasn't true. But they are heading that way. And part of our ecosystem of the courses, it's not just a course, it's community, it's coaching. And we have an app that's a portfolio. So imagine you're out doing this very open ended, child led, unschooling based learning adventure, right, for your children. You open this app, you snap some pictures, you tag it, it pulls in all the learning objectives that has on the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual levels, and can create transcripts and reports for the regulators. And it really maps the learning in an effortless way. Plus, you can share it with your family so they can see what's going on and so on. So, and it can suggest learning activities and things like that. So that's also going to be a component of making it easier to meet these regulations, because ultimately we just want to stay free to have the voice about how and what our children learn. And we have that right. It's an innate right of a human being. And that's why our mission is to make education a liberating force for change, right? So that we keep that autonomy and our
Yeah.
basic human rights intact.
Yeah.
So
Then
there we go.
it's simply interesting though. So now tell me how you got here. I know that you have traveled extensively. So tell me how lightweight learning came to be and how you got to the values that you're offering for people.
Yeah, that's a great story. So I guess it starts with I was a teacher in Texas for about 11, 12, 13 years. I taught early childhood and then I taught high school. That was a trial by fire, Julieta, right? Let me tell you, yeah, it was a bit of an inner city school in Houston, right? And I had never, ever been inside a high school in America before, let alone one like that. There were gang initiations in the hallway in October, right? It was crazy. It was crazy. And I cried my way through the first semester. And then by the second semester, things got better. But I remember I had a mentor because I did alternative certification where you finish up your teaching credentials in the first year, right? And I said to my mentor, yeah, there's days I just feel like I will never come back. And then there's days where I just can't imagine doing anything else. And when I said that, she looked at me and said, that tells me you're a born teacher, Zara. And that stuck with me. It was beautiful. So anyway, I discovered on a trip to Scotland that actually middle school was my love. So when I got back, I moved to middle school. And all that time I was teaching English. And then I moved into a different middle school. This was all in Houston, where I became the French teacher. So there I got a taste of what it was like when there was no state testing, because English, of course, there is, where the administrators really don't care that much about what the kids are doing in your class. I mean, they care, but they don't, it's not like with the tested subjects where they're on you, you know? And I was outside the school building in one of those temporary buildings. There was a whole pod of second language teachers. And it was great. And I could hear the birds instead of the school bells, and didn't hear the rattle of the lockers. And I just loved it. And all the kids chose to take my class, right? So as a result, I saw that contrast between when kids are forced to learn something that they don't want to do, and then when they aren't being forced. And it's night and day. And the amount that they were able to learn when they weren't being forced was incredible. Well, on top of that, I started to notice that we did a lot of actually really good, valuable professional development, learning about how kids learn, to how to structure learning, although I give that less and less value these days. But how to guide that learning, right? And the one thing I noticed is that within that architecture that is the school system, we're constantly training us to do all these different things. Never were they taking anything out to actually make space for it. So eventually in 2004, I left. It was a spiritual calling. It was like, Zara, you can't actually do this anymore. I'm like, but I'm a single parent. I'm a single parent. What am I going to do? Just stop work? And again, it was my intuitive sense saying, yep, that's exactly what's going to happen. You have to jump out. I was petrified. I left and I started going through a lot of self transformation, right? Doing a lot of retreats and workshops and things. And the perfect teacher for me showed up. And I let go of a lot of stuff. And then I started going to alternative education conferences like the Alternative Education Resource Organization, ERO, and the IDEC, International Democratic Education Conference. I went to the one in Vancouver. And then I was with a group I was part of holding the Children of the New Earth conference, right, which was very, very focused on the authenticity and the authentic genius of children. I was thinking about my life and I'm still wondering, what am I doing, right? Like, why did I step out? I've learned all this, but why am I stepping out? And immediately I heard, I'm supposed to open a school because I've been a teacher. I love the kids. I want to do all this stuff. I want to know what would happen without all the constraints of the system if I did everything I now know about, or from alternative education, from the real, from look at that. See, I almost said from the real education. Wow, the programming is still there. It's just insidious, isn't it? How much that sticks with us.
Yeah, it
The
really is.
mainstream education.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got that, it landed. I'm like, right, that's what I'm supposed to do. And the very next thing I was guided to do was sign up and do a master's degree in education administration. And I could tell you the whole story, the cars slowing down, right where I was supposed to get off the freeway, where I ended up walking into this crystal store and I met the woman's mother and she was like the head of mentoring for this program and blah, whatever.
My goodness.
Yeah, no, this is like, yeah, there's so many things like that happened. So I signed up for it. And originally, based on the interview, I thought I was going to be able to open my school and make that my work project for this degree because it included this like internship, but paid. that you had to do. But no, at the last minute, it turns out I couldn't, so I had to find a job in a school. So
Oh, how
no,
disappointing.
it was disappointing, and at the same time, I look back now and like, yeah, how exactly did you think you were gonna pay for this degree? So I, did get a job as an
Okay.
IB coordinator, which is an International Baccalaureate. Now that's a
Mhm.
program I actually have a lot of respect for. So this was the middle years program, and I was the coordinator, and it was right at the time where this school district just north of Houston was about to implement the whole thing across 4 schools. It's a 5-year, 4 5-year program, they were doing it across 5 schools. And yeah, that was another testing ground and
I
another
bet.
massive learning because here again, here was this architecture of mainstream education with kids being tested. I'd been out 3 or 4 years, and I
Yeah.
tell you what, the testing went. The kids were being tested every 3 weeks in math, reading. No, yeah, reading. They've stop pretending that it's language arts anymore now, or even English, right? Now it's all about just can you read a sentence and tell me what it means? Like
Yeah,
just complete dumbing down, total
Peter
dumbing
Gray
down.
talks a lot about the transition from like Common Core and how Common Core has a
Yes.
direct negative effect into how the kids now see the testing and how they're tested. Like he clearly like highlights that transition in the United States for education for sure.
Yeah, he's doing a really brilliant job of getting that message out. In
Hmm.
fact, our conscious parenting course is called Empower the Parent, Empower the Children. And the very first section of that, I guess, module of it is an interview with Dr. Peter Gray and all about play and all of that, right? So it's really, and I've been following his Substack, and the information he's coming out with is amazing. So
Yeah.
anybody that hasn't tapped into Peter Gray right now, tap into him. All
Yeah,
right. So
he's a great source. I think he's also a
he
great
is.
source to empower the parents because at the beginning there's a lot of fear. He's been in education for so long and he's been in research and he's probably one of the most
Exactly.
quoted person as far as like from a more as a scientific side of it with more research. So I feel like a lot of people find comfort in learning about his work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then especially around the play issue, right?
Yes.
Um, I've actually got a free download, the healing power of true play, because and I learned so much. I thought I knew about play, but his 5 characteristics of what you need for it to be true play, yeah?
Yeah.
And it's absolutely eye-opening how much kids need it, and the link between not having true play, not
True.
just playing it, but true play, and the rising anxiety, right?
Yes.
Everybody at this point thinks it's all about screens, and online, I've been, like, informing people when it comes up, which it comes up a lot. I'm like,
It does.
"Yeah, I know, we all think it's screen time." And it's also about there's not enough play because everyone's so afraid to let their children out the door, right?
Yeah.
So anybody listening that does have that fear, I want you to go to letgrow.org,
Yeah, letgrow.org, which was the
Lenore
organization
Skenazy.
with Lenore Skenazy, yeah, when her
Yeah,
son I mean, her book we
she's
have her book,
brilliant.
she is brilliant, and her son,
Yeah,
I think, took the train in New York City, and it was just, like,
exactly. He
uproar
was 9
about
years old.
but that is one of the things that Peter highlights about play that we adults
Mhm.
do not give freedom because we're constantly observing our children. That is one of the characteristics of play is to not be observed by adults. And hardly that ever happens
Exactly.
here.
No.
We're always
No.
watching. Yes.
Oh, yeah, well, absolutely, and I noticed this 15 years ago in the US, because you can tell from my accent, I didn't grow up here, even though I am American at this point, but well, I have been for 25 years, but, um, the the amount of fear that I haven't
Yes.
seen. So I'll tell you a quick story. When I've been living well, I'm a digital nomad right now, but when I'm at home, usually that's the top of the South Island in New Zealand where I moved at 15. And I remember visiting a school early on, right? And I was presenting them a program that I was offering, and it's during the staff tea time, right? So in New Zealand, they stop for tea in the morning and they stop for tea in the afternoon, and then there's lunchtime. And I'm in the staff room with all the teachers and the principal. And this isn't elementary school, like all the teachers. And suddenly, and I'm just fresh off the boat or the plane. from the US, and I look and having come from the US school system where there's absolute paranoia about being sued by parents if if the kid, stubs their thumb or something. So, and I glance out the window and it's slightly raining and there's all these children running around with their shoes and socks off, not all of them, but a lot of them, mud everywhere, and nobody out there. I'm like, "Do y'all," and they're like, "Oh, yeah, they're just playing. They're playing." I'm like, "Okay." And I thought, I'm in a different world. Not only that, but they're allowed to use real knives and real stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe not while out unsupervised running around on the playground, but when it comes to tools and things, they do get to use real stuff. And guess what? None of the kids in New Zealand died for themselves
Yeah.
beyond a normal human thing, right? So we're living in an age of parents really having been mentally and emotionally hijacked
Yes.
by media and everything, now making everything that used to happen in the world anyway much more visible, which makes it seem like it's happening more. But
All
if you
the
go
time.
to letgrow.org, you'll find out it's actually not at all.
Yeah, the
Anyway,
statistics are very different though. I mean,
statistics aren't correct.
yeah, I highly recommend people, when you start on this journey, there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of people that will come at you with their own fears and try to project their own fears and their own
Yeah,
experiences onto your
yeah,
journey. But
yeah.
one of the biggest breakthroughs that we got back in 2020 was to just really go inwards and start listening to what our intuition was telling us about what was the best route for us, and seeing that and listening to that and just kind of moving in that direction.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
it really changed our lives once we started diving into Dr. Peter Gray's work. Akila Richards, reading the book Raising Free People was a huge, 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 massive discovery on our journeys.
heard of her. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
she's absolutely fantastic. She raises some of the questions about how we colonize the time of our children, the space of our children, the bodies of our children. It goes beyond educational freedom. It really was a turning point on our journey. Not get,
Absolutely.
yes, let me
Yeah,
not
I
get
resonate.
sidetracked because
No, so strongly with what you're saying. No, I could talk to you for hours.
yes,
Yeah.
I just love this topic so much. But let me go back to lightweight learning. So,
So
throughout your experience, you're gathering
right.
all of this.
Okay.
So, talk to
Yeah.
me about the values and the ethos of lightweight learning and how you came to create the course that you will be offering as a live cohort soon, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So the last piece of that story is, yeah, I that new system in it was absolute hell. And it made me see even more. I want to do this without any of the restrictions. So the next part of what actually started Lightway Learning was me starting Lightway School, where I experimented with all the best practices and including so to serve the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual needs of the kids. It was
Yeah,
very open-ended learning. We worked as a little group together it was a micro school to decide what everyone wanted to learn about. And
yeah,
then we'd do learning activities. And then the afternoon was like be time, right? Just to be, do what you want. And what was amazing was the children would reenact during B time what we were learning about in the morning because
yeah,
they chose it, right?
yeah,
So they did ancient Egypt, we did that. And then in the afternoon, they used the whole room to build a massive city over several days of an ancient Egyptian city,
yeah,
etc. And they always did that. It was incredible. So that though was 2008, 2009, 2010. And unfortunately, you might remember there was a little housing crisis right
yeah,
around then.
yeah,
So money for private school wasn't really available for most of the families that would have been interested in that model. Plus, you're talking 15, 16, 17 years ago. Like,
yeah. That was not.
free.
I mean, it
Nobody
changed.
did
No, nobody was doing it. And micro schools didn't become a real thing until after COVID. And then
that.
once, in the U.S., tax
Yeah.
dollars were available, like in Florida, I believe it's
Mm,
either Idaho or Iowa. Your school tax dollars actually go with your children and not to the school system that you are part of. So that was a big difference. Something that really helped micro schools because they could utilize that money to pay for their operational activities. And Arrow has been a huge supporter of people that want to try to get started because I did an
Yes.
interview
He
with
helped me
Peter
get
Bird.
started.
Yes, and that was one of the things that he said. He said, "When you wanna start a micro school or an alternative education center or something of that sort, the one thing you wanna think about it was about sustainability. How are you going to be sustainable?" Because he shared a couple of stories. Everyone wants to do it, but they have the really good intentions, but it's hard once you get down to the nitty-gritty of the operation and the fact of
Yeah.
running something that you have to pay rent on your space and all of that. So, where
Mhm.
was your school? What state or where were you located?
Oh, so
Okay.
this was Texas. Yeah, I lived in Houston for about 25 years.
Yeah, okay.
So this was actually in the Woodlands, which is actually pretty conservative as well, which is just north of Houston, in the north of Houston.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. Well, anyway, lots of lessons learned,
Yeah, I bet.
including I really didn't want to be running a school. I really loved creating it. I loved the process that we created,
Yeah.
children's learning, but I didn't really want to be still running something like that. I don't know. It was interesting. It was another self discovery, right? We go through different things.
Totally, yes.
Yeah. So then I spent the next 10 years or so, so up until about 5 years ago, wondering what to do next, honestly, and always feeling like, well, it's not time yet. Whatever it is I'm doing next, it's not time yet. I mean, I did stuff, but it never felt like I was really on track.
On the path.
Right.
Yes, I
Right.
relate deeply.
Yes. So then the pandemic came around, and I already had this idea for EPIC, Empowered Parents Inspiring Children, as a certification course for home educators.
Mhm.
And so everyone's like, Zara, Zara, the moment's come, the moment's come. And I thought, okay, and like scrambling into action and everything. And then after a little while, I was just like, okay, two things came up for me. One was, oh, well, I'm a solopreneur and I don't think that works for me. I want a team. And the other was, nobody's homeschooling right now because even though it's called homeschooling, you don't homeschool by staying locked up in the house. Right.
Correct.
And they're in such a panic and it's not going to land right now. Right.
No,
Anyway.
it was a very chaotic time. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Mhm.
So it still didn't feel right. So then late last year, after my travels to 13 different countries, looking at different intentional communities and learning so much about that and so much about community, that was journey was coming to an end. And it suddenly just full force again, intuition. It's time now, Zara. It's time now. It's time to do this. And I'm like,
Ah,
okay. And the name Lightway Learning had been there and it came back and it's like, that's what it is. But then because of my previous attempts to start things and finally realizing when I saw the word solopreneur that that wasn't me, this time I reached out to a group of four other women to work with me with Lightway Learning. And one of them, a long story short, one of them, my partner Kim and I are now still full on doing it.
okay.
And what we've created is a full ecosystem now for home educators, right? So I've been out and looking around. I'm looking online. I'm seeing all the stuff. There's a podcast here. There's a little coursey thing over here, all the same basic stuff, intro, da 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 da. Facebook groups, you go there as a new home educator and you post a
Yeah.
question, and the next thing I see is 50 different people all offering to sell 50 different things and to sell their services and all of this stuff.
Mhm.
And, you get some advice, but also it's still just
A
overwhelm.
lot, yes.
Right. So my question is, right, here I am. I'm a new home educator. My nervous system's on edge. I'm scared to death. I'm going to
Mhm.
mess this up for my kids. Unlike many of the influencers that I see on Instagram,
Oh my god,
you
yeah.
know, don't have a teaching degree, right? It's a lot of former school teachers is what I've seen.
Yeah.
And but most of the people doing this that are getting started really don't have that background. So when I took all my teacher training and hat off and then put myself in that situation, I'm like, whoa, yeah, that would be scary because with all my background and training, I kind of have an idea. I know exactly what to do. Right. So I thought, right, so if I'm them, what do I want? Well, I want a one-stop shop. I want to go somewhere where I can feel like I can get the training I need. Some kind of qualification is a bonus they probably haven't even considered, but if you can,
No, but
right?
I really think you're right on the fact that it's going to be needed. I think it's coming. It may not be like this year or next year, but I really think you're right on something. I think that's coming, yeah, in the next 5 years or so. Yes.
Exactly. And Lightway University is 3 to 5 years from now. So I think this is why the intuition, I'm getting such chills now as you say that. was like, "Now, start now." I
Yeah.
thought that meant, we'll have a university in 2 years, but now here we are a year in and just about to launch the first course. Like, okay. Yeah. So, all right. So there is, we want to get this training. I want to feel confident. I want to feel confidence. And, we're two very, very well informed educators with backgrounds in both fields, both parents. And we bring like professional development. It's not exactly like teacher ed because you're not going to get a 4-year degree in it. And I wouldn't want to anyway, because most teachers have to unschool and deschool themselves, right? Before they can
Yeah.
really appreciate more alternative, very child directed ways, right? But
Yes.
I think a lot of parents cling to and must buy a curriculum right away because
Yes.
that's a structure that they can hold on to. It's something that they know.
It's
Well,
tangible. Yes. It's something
exactly.
tangible that you can turn to.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can turn to, and it's familiar, and I could
Yep.
probably do that.
Yep.
Then I see online too, so many of them on these Facebook. Well, I got the curriculum and now I'm sitting here at the table and my kids, I'm start having to force them. It's such a struggle. I feel like I'm failing. I don't know what to do, and it's because if
Yes.
they weren't thriving in mainstream education, they're not gonna in a school. Why would they thrive in that same basic system that you're just moved it? You've just changed the
Yeah.
geography.
You're
You
just
haven't
doing school
actually
at
changed
home.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just doing
New
school at home.
geography, same story.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And if you're like many where the children have a lot of anxiety from schooling and now they're at home and now suddenly mums become this same thing and now home's not even a place I can get away from this,
Yes.
then it's no wonder there's resistance, yeah?
Yep.
So what we do is we do give parents something to do right away, but it's very different. It's more about letting go, allowing. Let's let everybody's nervous system get regulated. Here's what you can do now. You can
Yes.
become a real observer. They need time to recover.
Yes.
Here's a methodology for observation so you can really get to know your child. In the meantime, come and take our course, which will be helping you to put what I call the lightweight system in place. And the lightweight system is what I developed in my micro school, right? And I actually had a Saturday program with kids in my home every Saturday for 3 years. I forgot to mention that. It was called A Dream of a Better World. That was, yeah, another story, but that was also part of the development of the lightweight system. So it took about 4 or 5 years to really develop it
Yeah.
and bring the best of both worlds into it, right? So you get the course, it's about 3 months, and it takes you through 8 different modules, how to set up all the normal stuff you see online, how to set up your home, blah, 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 blah. But also there's a really strong part of personal transformation, personal development as a human, as a parent,
Yeah.
right? That's really essential for coming out of systems because we
Yeah.
have to uproot that, right?
Yeah.
And replace it, but do it in a gentle, loving way,
Yes.
right? Right. That's responsive. We also teach family, FAMLI, which is a way of empowering children and having co created family agreements and so on, and heart
Hmm.
circles and spark circle, we call it, where you actually talk about what are we going to learn about. So,
Yeah.
right. That's a whole system that I've just created from my training in sociocracy and so on. Anyway, there's 8 modules. Oh, the so it's hard, isn't it, thinking of a whole list of 8 things.
No,
Right?
I love this so much though because as you are speaking and sharing what the modules are, I'm thinking back of my own journey. And
Mm,
for me, learning that, like invited my children into this concept of what are we going to learn together was it's like a bucket of cold water, right? Like I had to go through, I spent almost $10,000 in curriculum when we first started. There are a couple of podcasts where I've shared about that, and you don't have to
mm,
spend not one dime because at the beginning, the deschooling and getting uprooted from the systems that don't work for you was another piece that I skipped at the very beginning. So there's another bucket of cold water.
mm,
Like I learned that the hard way. And it's so fascinating to me to, that as you're saying this, like there's no better time to think about home educating than now because After COVID, from 2020 on forward, there were so many myth busters type of activity about what home education truly is and how you can embrace it into your own, but also the work that exists behind it, like leaving the systems that don't work for you and regulating your nervous system and allowing your children to regulate their nervous system and then inviting them into their own journey and education. I mean, it's fascinating. And I'm telling you, like, if I had learned about a course like yours back in 2020, I mean, I would have been right there because I
Maybe I
needed
should have
that.
done it then.
Well,
I
that's so
wasn't ready. Yeah.
no, I don't think, I like to say that I was ready, but maybe I wasn't ready either, right? Because my
Mm,
mind was like, my children, my oldest was coming out from a Montessori. There were a couple of homeschool groups that were meeting up outside, and their conversations revolved around curriculum. So I felt that that was my only option, right? Like, to leave
yeah.
one system and to go into this other system at school at home through the way of curriculum. But my children had a very nice way of letting me know that that was not going to work for them. Well, just like you say, they weren't learning at the table like the Instagram homeschoolers. Like I was just talking to a friend about building your own library. It's a very popular homeschool curriculum that is a little bit more of a free flow because it has a theme
Mhm.
and then the lesson or the theme has a couple of books that cover that theme. So it's like more like literature based. And I
Mhm.
am a literature person. You can see my
Mhm.
beautiful bookshelf behind me. You can
Yeah.
also I also have, an online bookshop, and one of my dreams is to
Mm.
open an actual physical space where books are available, but my children are very hands-on people. Like, my children were not into the books, and I was getting frustrated in
How
all of
old
that.
were they at the
They
time?
were so Anthony was 6 going on 7, and then my little one was, like, 2. So, here I had
Yeah.
this dream of sitting on the floor and reading books or them pointing at the pictures and that me telling them, and then I'm like and they're like, "No, we don't wanna do this." So, not to say that they don't do we did it, but it was just so dysregulating to have to find myself the hard way. Like I felt like I was like hitting a wall. Every day I
Yeah.
was hitting a wall and I had nowhere to
Mhm.
turn. And that's why when I started the podcast, that was my biggest goal for the podcast is for people to know that there are other ways. I don't want to say systems, but I'm saying there's so much more out there. And by sharing someone's story, they may spark something different in you. Like
Absolutely.
what we have now in place, the structure of school, it's not the only thing. And it's slowly, maybe more rapidly nowadays, it's rapidly caving. It is caving in. And
Mm.
people are leaving because they are
Wow.
seeing how it's caving in. And they're looking, they need a different
Yeah.
way. So what I love about the podcast is like the information is out there. So whenever someone is ready to be brought into whether it's
They'll
your
find you.
ecosystem, this podcast
Exactly.
will find you. And then you will find the tribe, the community, the space that you feel
Yeah.
welcome, that kind of gives back to you and that you also give your precious time and resources. It's a
Right.
two-way street, right? And
Yeah.
it's just transformation. It's there are so many portals open into different transformations nowadays. Okay, that was a very long
No,
explanation.
that's cool. I was just gonna say briefly, I'm now seeing on socials what I used to talk about 15 years ago, which is the way that the school system was created and what its purpose was.
Yes.
15 years ago, people were calling me a conspiracy theorist because I was
That
explaining to them why we have bells. So it's like the factory starting and stopping
yes.
work at the sound of a bell. It was all factory training by behaviorist scientists designed to create factory workers, right? But
Yeah.
when I would say that and explain in great detail and show the structure and everything, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist. I'm like, okay, the
Oh,
world's really not ready for this. And now I see it everywhere. I'm like,
that is so fascinating. I feel like that has to be a little bit like frustrating in a
it's
way.
a bit annoying, but at the
Yeah.
same time, if I'm going to follow the lightweight values, which are love in action, trust in spirit, and know thyself, then I have to trust in spirit and get out of my ego, because the annoyed part of me is just that egotistical part of me that's like,
Saying,
"But
I said it.
I said that, and they wouldn't listen to me, and it's not fair," you know?
Yes, 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 yes. I totally,
Yeah.
oh my God, I can totally relate. I
Mm.
feel the same way in about, but my timeline is not usually like 15 years. My timeline is usually about 4 to 5 years.
I was first thinking about this in 2004, 2005, so it's been 20 years.
20 years. Yeah.
20 years ago, I remember somebody telling me, "You're 20 years ahead of your time." And I sat there and went, "Oh my God, I can't wait that long. That's like forever." But here we are.
Yeah.
The time went by. I'm a lot older, hopefully wiser.
Don't we all? I love that
Yeah.
so much though. So tell me more about the program. So when is it? So this
Yeah.
will be
So
the
you've got
first round, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, well, first, the whole ecosystem is the training, the eight
Okay.
module course. It includes coaching, and we also have an online community that people get access to. And we have the app I was telling you about, the
Yeah.
portfolio app,
Mm-hmm.
etc. That's way more than a portfolio app. And those are the main components.
Okay.
But you also, with the course, get the whole Empower the Parent, Empower the Children course, right? Which is up and live now. That does have Dr. Peter Gray in it, but it also talks about self healing, communication
That's
tools,
huge.
family generational healing, family
Mm-hmm.
constellations, and also
Yeah.
modern day fatherhood, right? So that's 6 modules. It's video, it's audio, and it's a whole big workbook. And as I was creating it, because I was trusting spirit, and spirit said, no, stop doing a foundations journey, which is our level 1 certification course with all those components, and do this thing. I'm like, what? Okay, so I did it. But then once it was complete, I went, oh my God, this is a perfect precursor for the foundation's journey, because it's the beginning of that inner work for the parent, and also learning some tools they can use. Now they're home all day long with the children
Oh
and so on.
yeah.
You got to clear your stuff out the way, right?
My God, you do. You absolutely do. And if you have been listening to our podcast for a little while, you'll know that that's really what my work is all about. And most of the
Yes.
sharing that I do is about the inner work that I had to do in order to be 24/7 with my children. Now,
Yeah.
I will tell you that that work never ends, similar to my phrase on my thoughts on deschooling is that deschooling does not end. It just evolves. So there's a different layer of
Right.
letting go of deconditioning that we go through as we go deeper into this journey. Our children have different ages. There are different situations that you come across. So
Yeah.
all of that is the
Absolutely.
juicy
It's
part.
yours. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely juicy. And it's also so important, because the more work we do on ourselves, the more that spills over into how we raise our children, mostly from the example that we're setting,
Yes.
right? And it's okay to get it wrong, and to be able to, in a sense, fess up to that,
Yes.
demonstrate the tools that we have learned for clearing those things,
Oh,
right?
yes, so
Say,
juicy.
oh, right,
Yep.
mommy's going to go now and do XYZ. In our Empower the Parent course, we even have a learning ritual that serves as an example for kids too, because it's not really, we're not recommending at all that you just listen to this thing as you're running down the street and out and driving around. No. And I know that's counter to what's going on in learning right now, and it's a big risk. And what we know is that when you're in defend mode running around, you're not learning, you're not taking it in. You
No.
have to get into relaxed mode, receive mode.
Yeah.
So the whole ritual is about creating the space, taking a breath, feeling in, getting a treat, lighting a candle, getting your stuff together, breathe, and now. And you don't think that kids would be watching how we're learning?
Yeah,
They'll
yeah.
see that. They'll be
When
like,
you're in rest and
oh,
digest, yep. Mhm,
yeah,
mhm. Yeah,
yeah. So that's the whole thing. So when I say ecosystem, right, it's not just the product, pieces of the product. It's really a whole feeling and experience,
yeah, in
right, of
full transformation.
being held.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then being able to hold our children as a result.
Yep.
because they need us. They
Yep.
need us to do this work so badly, right?
Absolutely, and they are calling for it too. They don't just
They're calling. Yeah,
silently needing it, they are
yeah,
calling for it. I am telling you,
yeah,
I
yeah.
often I often say, like, it's not that I didn't wanna do the work. I mean, I knew I needed some work, right? I mean, I did years of therapy. It's like, how could I not?
I
I
yeah, yeah.
needed it, but I wasn't fully going into it. I was fine being in the busyness of it all. I was fine doing the thing, and I was fine going through
Yeah.
life like that. I'm like, "I don't need
Yeah,
this." And then here come
exactly.
my children and telling me, "No, lady, this is not how this is gonna work. You need to do your own stuff. You need to do your own work because we're not this isn't what we're here for." So, I am forever grateful for my children, but funny you mentioned about the example, one of the things that I learned from my dad without my dad ever saying a word was on time, being on time. So that example that we show for our kids, it's so important because you are given teachings without knowing that you're actually given that. So your actions will matter much more than your words. If your words are
It's
counter to your
exactly it.
actions,
Yes, yes,
there's a
yes,
mismatch there, but they
yeah.
will often take the actions over the words.
Mostly,
Yep.
mostly, we tell children, "Use your words," right? That's early childhood.
Yes.
Use your words, and then adults don't hold resentments, they don't address things when they come up,
Yep.
that everything's left to fester, and you just keep going and pretend everything's okay, but all the time, you're just driving those emotions deeper into you, and then when life happens, all these reactions, and rather than measured response, the reactions, it's all this stuff up,
It just
right?
comes out. Yes.
Just
Yes.
comes out, right? So, there's a lot of probably very conscious parents are gonna be listening to this, and what I wanted to say listening to you is that often as conscious people who have an awareness of what's going on with us, we can be working on things for a really long time and then it's still there and it still comes up and it's still this, right? And that's where I think the family constellation segment of that course comes in because it explains how family historical wounding landed onto future generations and not just how it happens. It gives you a very simple pathway to actually clear a lot of that stuff,
Oh
right?
my god.
Then finally you're free.
My
It's not
god.
the fix everything thing. However, it does offer pathways for some quite deep healing. I've done quite a bit of it myself and love it.
Yes.
So that course is part of the foundation's journey. But if people take it now and start preparing,
Yep.
then we'll give them a credit for the cost of that course towards the foundation journey if they decide to sign up for that, which opens like January for registration. But we're
Okay.
actually launching mid-February, right
Okay.
when the year of the snake in Chinese astrology turns into the year of the fire horse, which is my year. I'm a fire horse, born 1966.
Oh my
I'm so
goodness.
excited, and we're gonna do it then. Yeah. So, the Foundations Journey is the first main offering, that certification course with the community, with the app, with the coaching,
Yeah.
and with our support. The first one is a cohort of a maximum of 20 because we want to make sure everything's in place and going. And that's why the cost of it is actually quite low for what we're giving for a 3 month course. Probably 4,000 or so for
Yeah.
something like that, right? Yeah. Well, we're doing it for 997 for the first course. Um,
Wow. Okay.
because we want people's feedback. And so you get that whole ecosystem for that 997. And then after that, when we've checked everything through, you always have version 1.0, you do it, you think it's
Yeah,
fantastic. And then
there's always sure.
right, and you want to know for the parents, like, we think this would really work. What do you think? How did that work for you? Right?
Mhm.
And then we can change it. And then we'll be releasing it on self-serve, right? It'll just
Yeah.
be open enrollment. But you'll still get that personal touch with the group coaching,
Yeah.
right? And then once that's really launched and going, then we're going to develop level two. And so people that have done level one can do level two. And then we'll have, which is called the practitioner's experience, right? So now you know what you're doing. You've got a really good idea. You're not totally lost anymore. You've got your Lightway system in place. Your kids love learning. You're enjoying it. Everything's rolling along. But you might want to deepen your practice. There's always more we can learn, about
Oh my
how
God,
children
yes.
learn and so forth. And if we're going to take on that role of home educator, perhaps we do need to know a little bit more about child psychology, a little bit more about how children think, a bit more deeper into how to empower your kids through that family, FAMLI program, circles, and so forth. So each element can be deepened. And then the third course will be the third level of certification. So each level you get certified, but you get certified, level 1, level 2, level 3 is the mastery journey.
Okay.
And once a parent has completed those 3, we're going to have a coaching add-on that'll be learning how to be a lightweight coach, how to actually coach people through the lightweight system. And then parents can become lightweight coaches as well.
Yeah.
And that creates, like I said, that revenue stream. And then all that eventually filters into, yeah, the eventual lightweight university. People that take the courses now will be able to get credit for that when they enter Lightway University, right? Oh, I'm such a rebel, Theata. And one of the reasons I really want to do this is because, yeah, I want to beat the system, man. By the time they get to that regulation, I want to have enough
He'll be
people
ahead of the game.
able to, yeah, and just be like,
Yeah.
oh, you think you're going to shut that down or control that to that
They're,
degree?
yeah.
No, we got these guys covered. So they'll be able to get degrees in home education or whatever we call it by that point, right?
Yeah.
Without it being onerous, right? I don't want this to be some massive $20,000 whole thing in 3, 4 years of your life, and where you're struggling to do the home education and teach your kids
Yeah.
and go to school. No, this will be really based with a lot of credit for time spent home educating and,
My
just
goodness.
document it. And we've even got the app for you to document it
Yes.
all on, right?
I really think this is kind of where it's going to go. There are regulations, bills in the UK. There are
Yeah,
bills here in the state of
yeah,
Michigan. There are bills
yeah.
in other parts of the country. There are
Mhm.
bills in other countries and even France where the homeschooling is banned unless you have a specific reason. In Germany, homeschooling is technically illegal too.
It
So
is
there
illegal. It's been illegal a long time, yeah,
yeah,
in
so
Germany.
there is a huge awareness of how people are leaving not only the education system, but they're also leaving the traditional 9 to 5. They're all of the
Yes.
systems that have been in place, from the onset of capitalism are slowly caving in. They are slowly
Thank you.
caving in and everyone is coming
Absolutely it.
into this new path, into this
Yeah.
new awareness from a different direction. So we came through from the direction
Yeah.
of home education. Other
Mhm.
people are coming from the direction of entrepreneurship, when they left their
Yeah.
corporate job. And you hear all the stories, right? The people that left their corporate job
Absolutely,
and they went,
constantly. I left
yeah,
corporate. I was dying, but I made all this money. Now I can do this.
yes,
I keep thinking,
exactly.
maybe
So
I did
you
it the wrong way round.
Yeah, so you just so y we're all coming from different directions.
Yes.
The different institutions that we hold, there's a lot of people getting divorced. There's a lot of people just finding different ways. There are just people are just starting to listen to themselves, and they're
Yeah.
realizing that the systems that we have had in place were never
Yeah.
designed to fulfill our authentic self. So
Right.
yes, is your
Yes.
authenticity is what's gonna take us onto the next level, and home
Mm,
education is a way to honor yourself, your authenticity, your authentic self as a parent, as a person, but also to give that to your children as you go through the home education journey. Oh,
exactly. Yeah. And as I said,
yes.
as a system buster, there's another aspect to lightweight learning that goes beyond what we're actually doing, and it's who we are as
Yeah,
an organization, right? So I don't want to do business as usual. We're a conscious business. And to me, that means people, planet, profit, and purpose. And you
yeah,
spoke to that just now. People are looking for a purpose,
yeah.
not just work for money, right? That's why people don't want to work anymore. And I think the pandemic actually gave people time to sit down and go, what am I
Ah,
doing with my
what
life?
am I doing? Yes, there's
What am
this
I doing?
whole
Before that, they didn't have time,
yes, nope, no
right?
one had time. There's the whole culture of silent
That's right.
quitting.
Yes. And they just like now they're like, I need purpose because I'm
Yeah,
dying. Dying, I need purpose, right? So there's that aspect of that's called the quadruple bottom line, people, planet, profit, and purpose. And it used to just be the bottom line, right?
yeah,
It's triple, now it's quadruple with the purpose added in. But we're also a social enterprise. although we haven't figured out what we're going to give to yet, but we're also
Okay.
haven't really, you know, we haven't generated any income really yet either. So it doesn't really matter. We'll decide that when we get there, but that's part of our ethos. And then the other part, yeah, is our values, right? And that authenticity speaks back to know thyself and
Yeah.
trust in spirit, love in action. Humanity is really a loving,
Yeah, we
right?
are.
And it's all that wounding and stuff that actually gets in the way. It has
Yeah,
to stop with us. It's time to step up because with the freedom that we're all claiming comes that great responsibility. And the
most
first
definitely.
responsibility is to
To
ourselves and
ourselves.
to heal ourselves. Stop
Yes.
the pain, stop the wounding
Yeah.
right here, right now, this generation,
Oh my
not
goodness. That
any other generation.
yes. I mean, all of my work has been about the healing of myself just so I don't pass that on to my children, and being aware of it and knowing where it comes from. So this is such beautiful work and it has been such a beautiful conversation. I feel like we can keep talking forever. But
I know. We'll stop.
yes, we will probably have something else on it, but I wanted to give you space to share with people for those of you that will be listening and for those of you that are saying, yes, this is for me, this is where I want to go. I'm a new parent and I want to home educate and I want to be ahead of the curve. I can tell you that I also feel this is where that it's going to go.
Yeah.
We will probably come back to this episode at some point, maybe in 5 years, and say, here we said it not from an ego perspective, but rather from an
Just like, yeah.
awareness to say we are trying to give you the tools for you to make a decision from within and to
Mhm.
prepare us to deal with the structures that we do have in place that will eventually be changing. How can people get a hold of you? I'm sorry, go ahead.
First, I just want to say I feel like there needs to also be a counter movement to this regulation. And that counter movement needs to be you're going to have all these regulations. You know, we're the ones now footing the bill completely for
Yes.
our children's learning. You got to pay
Hmm.
that money that was going, that $15,000 a year per child, needs to come to us now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So a pushback on that would be good.
Oh my God,
Um,
yes. I think there is
right?
some of that happening and
Check boxes on those tax returns where we
yes.
get to choose what the money goes to. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's
But
Florida, and I think, like I said, Iowa or Idaho, one of the I's
yeah, they're doing
have
that,
that,
right?
and there are
Yeah.
maybe a few other states that are kind of like working on that because there are
Mhm.
amazing people doing amazing work, and they could
Yeah.
really use the financial help for that. So, okay, but
Cool.
how can
All
people get
right.
a
So
hold
to
of you?
get hold of me, it's Lightway, Lightway learning, learning .earth.
Okay,
Because we like to think global, because I'm a global person too. So lightwaylearning.earth, and you can email us at love@lightwaylearning.earth.
okay,
Instagram, we're at light_way_learning. You could follow us
okay,
there too. Yeah.
okay. So
So
we
that,
We will have all of that information in the show notes and their links and all of that so you can get a hold of them. If this episode resonates with you, or if you want to share with your friends who are thinking about home educating, I can say that I wish I would have had this back in 2020.
uh,
I feel like
yeah,
people are opening now for a better way to do it and a better way that includes you in the center, you as a parent, you as a person, your children
yeah,
as the beautiful
yeah.
beings that they are. Thank you, Zara.
Beautiful. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you
So
so much.
amazing. I love you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. For anyone out there, please remember that your time is precious. I hope you're making it count. See you next time.